Listen here, folks, let me tell you something. I was back home in Louisiana, right? Simpler times, where the biggest problem was whether Mama's Gulash was going to set off your IBS, real Norman Rockwell kind of deal. Anyway, I knew this fella, Cletus, bless his heart, looked like if a scarecrow and a basset hound had a baby, and he swore he was telepathic, could read minds, said he knew what color underwear the preacher was wearing on Sundays. Things got real interesting at the potluck after that. But anywho, where was I? Yeah, this reminds me of something happened in New York after a bad breakup. Felt like my heart was run over by a John Deere tractor. So I'm swiping on this app thinking, Lord, send me an angel or at least someone who can tolerate my crippling anxiety. And this girl, she shows up looking like a dang Victoria's Secret model, even better than the pictures. I'm talking breathtaking, like seeing a bald eagle eating a hot dog on the 4th of July kind of beauty. So we're in Brooklyn, cold as a witch's tit, and I get hammered, blackout drunk, only me, she's sober as a judge, and I grab her and lay a big old kiss on her, and she says all prime and proper. Oh my, I didn't expect that. And me sloshed out of my gourd, I just blurt out, you better fucking expect it. Smooth as sandpaper, I know, and never heard from her again, rightfully so. I should have been tarred and feathered for that, but then bam. Months later, out of the blue, she texts me on a Friday afternoon. How are you? I said, I'm good. She goes, I want to see you and I want to get freaky with you, which is like getting a text from Oprah saying she wants to wrestle you in pudding. So I text back, oh yeah, it's with a question mark because a boy ain't used to that kind of forwardness. She hits me with the where are you? I tell her Union Square, and then she drops the bomb. Do you want to get your dick sucked or not? Now I'm having lunch with my parents, spaghetti and meatballs, classy, and I gotta excuse myself. Mom, Pop, nature calls, gotta go make a deposit at the sperm bank. Not really, I just said I needed to take a phone call, but this felt like a national emergency, like the Russians are about to nuke Disney World, so I call her and it sounds like a different person, like maybe Cletus used his mind-reading powers to catfish me. I'm half expecting to hear, boy do I have a story for you. But no, it's her, says she had a bad week at work and wants to get down. I go back to my folks. Mom, got a run, audition came up, and she gives me that look that I know you're lying, but I'm gonna play along kind of look, and says go get him, Sammy, which just made me feel like a used car salesman chasing tail instead of selling a dependable sedan. So I head to this warehouse in Queens. Feels shady, like a place where they film snuff films or store stolen garden gnomes, but I chalk it up to New York being weird. Get to the building, nice doorman. So I text her to come down, but she says I got scotch upstairs. Meet me in the lobby, always with the scotch, this one, and she comes downstairs, beautiful as ever, like seeing a rainbow after a tornado. We go up and the apartment's empty. Just a couch and a bottle of scotch. Felt like I walked onto a porno set. I had killed a couple scotches and we start making out. Things are getting heated. And then she stops, says, I sure hope my roommate doesn't catch us. I'm thinking, lady, this is New York, rent's high, I get it, but let's take this show to the bedroom. Then she says, no, I want him to catch us. Shoulda left right then and there, shoulda listened to my gut, but my little friend down there was having a party, said let's see where this goes, so we go to the bedroom. She picks up where she left off. Then she stops again and I turn and there's this dude. Jacked, tatted up, wearing a tank top and a damn cap like a character out of Roadhouse. Just staring at me, and in my panic, the only thing I can muster is, can I help you? Like I'm offering him a mint or directions to the nearest Starbucks. He goes, are we gonna do this or what? And I'm thinking, do what? Join your gang? I'm sell encyclopedias door to door, so I say I think there's been a misunderstanding, and he gets closer and I'm terrified and aroused at the same time, which is a confusing cocktail of emotions. He asks, are you gonna do this or not? And I said, do what? And he's like, her. And I'm thinking, is this Ocean's 11 all of a sudden? So I said, no, I don't. And he says, you're either in or you're out. I look at her, she shrugs, and I'm so scared, traumatized, I just ran, didn't even pull my pants up all the way. Waddled out of there like a penguin on land. Friends tell me cool orgy stories, but I end up waddling to get my JonSport, then out of the door, pathetic. I'm feeling awful as I could ever feel. Then my mom calls asking how the audition went, and I told her someone else was going to get the part, and I truly did mean it. All right. Listen up, y'all. Let me tell you something. Grew up in Louisiana, right? Backwoods, like if you sneeze too loud, the banjo players would start dueling. And then I had this buddy named of, let's call him Bubba Earl, because that was probably his name anyway. Bubba Earl thought he was a dang genius, always coming up with these inventions like a squirrel feeder made out of old beer cans, genius, right? Or a mosquito repellent that smelled exactly like burnt hair. Now, fast forward a few years, I'm watching this interview with Shane Gillis, right? and they start talking about history, like Civil War history, and I'm thinking Bubba Earl would have loved this. Probably would have invented a time machine out of a lawnmower engine just to go back and sell encyclopedias to General Lee, and Shane's talking about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, these basketball players, and I'm picturing Bubba Earl trying to explain the difference between a layup and a free throw, and he'd probably say something like, well, one's like trying to catch a greased pig at the county fair, and the other's like trying to catch a greased pig at the state fair, and they get to talking about the North and the South and the Civil War and who would be who, and I'm thinking, all right, this is some serious stuff, but then Shane says he used to play offensive line, and I'm back in Elon, North Carolina, and some dude was yelling at me, 73, because I was an overweight offensive lineman and I never played, man. I weighed like 95 pounds of pure Southern sugar. Now I'm like 65 on stage, a little more refined, you know, bulking up in a different way. These buttons are about to fire like a rocket. And then he tells this interviewer that people describe his comedy as turbulence, which honestly ain't bad, because sometimes when I'm up there, I feel like I'm flying a crop duster through a hurricane, and they're talking about SNL and Jerry from Remember the Titans, paralyzed from the waist down. Gary, that's the guy. I love you, Gary. Which, I mean, dang, that's messed up. But then he went to the Paralympics dominated, just like my Uncle Cletus at the bingo hall. And Shane's fans look like offensive linemen. I mean, that's real talk. And they whip out these Fruit of the Loom underwear. Shout out Fruit of the Loom. Those things are like a second family reunion down south. And they asked Shane to do a pass set like he's going to show off his football skills in his underwear. And then out of nowhere, they're talking about NFL players painting their nails. And Shane's like, I don't like it. And it turns into this whole thing about girls getting earrings and big boobs and then looking at the guys. And I'm starting to sweat now. My nipples are like O'Hare Airport. And it devolves to Spider-Man meme about tires. You know, tires, the thing Shane puts his friends inside and spins them around in, which at the end of the day is probably a more useful skill than most of what you learn in college. Because let me tell you, folks, life ain't about fancy degrees or painted fingernails. It's about whether you can fit inside a tire or find your own dang piece spinning in circles in the sunshine. All right, so listen up, y'all. Reminds me of this one time back in Louisiana, Louisiana. We had this fella, Earl Jr., who swore he could talk to squirrels, like full-on conversations, right? Turns out Earl was just high on paint thinner and yelling at him, but for a solid month, the whole town thought we had a regular Dr. Dolittle situation, a regular St. Francis of Assisi, but with more meth. It was wild. Anyhow, talking to folks, seeing what makes them tick, remind of Shane Gillis. That dude is like a human firecracker, ain't afraid to light the fuse. And like Earl Jr. with the squirrels, a lot of folks are just kind of yelling back at him, confused and maybe a little scared. I heard this comedian, Caleb Presley, he's hanging with Shane, right? Asking him all kind of questions like how many beers it takes for Shane to be funny. Apparently 5, which relatable. But Caleb's worried about fans peeking at Shane's, you know, personal area at the urinal, which is just, I mean, come on. People got stuff to do, places to be, things to see that aren't Shane Gillis's pecker. Now, I guess if that's your thing, y'all do you. I'm not here to judge. Unless you bring that kind of thing to my show, then we might have a conversation. See, it's like this fire extinguisher Caleb mentions. You got to have a plan, right? For everything. Even if it's just avoiding eye contact in the bathroom. And Planned Parenthood? Well, parents are good, I reckon, even if they're raising kids who think Shane Gillis is the voice of a generation. I mean, everyone's got to start somewhere. The real is where does Shane Gillis fans park their wheelchairs and their guns? Because let's be honest, that's a valid concern. Feels like a metaphor for something, like how do we make space for everyone, even the loud ones, even the ones bringing weaponry and motorized scooters to the show? I guess you just check the wheelchair, make sure it ain't got explosives or something, and let them roll on in. Because at the end of the day, we're all just a bunch of Earl Juniors yelling at squirrels, hoping someone understands. And maybe, just maybe, finding a little bit of truth in the chaos, kind of like that time I saw a raccoon wearing a tiny cowboy hat, walking a chihuahua on a leash in downtown Baton Rouge. I swear I ain't making it up. Man, Sharon here, looking like a dang silver fox crossed with a Chardonnay waterfall. Got me thinking about my own grandma, bless her heart, used to say Elvis was so greasy, which coming from a woman who dipped her fried okra in mayonnaise was, you know, a statement. But Elvis, see, he was like the government killing JFK. Everybody's got an opinion. Nobody's got the damn answer, you feel me? Now, Sharon, she's convinced it was the government. And honestly, looking at her sipping that free Chardonnay like she's about to single-handedly solve the Cold War, I'm almost inclined to agree, because you got to wonder, right? Like we got people walking on the moon, but we can't figure out why my dog keeps eating socks. That's some shady government stuff right there. Probably the same folks who rigged my high school elections, I'm telling you. And marriage? Shoot, that's like trying to parallel park a combine in a Piggly Wiggly parking lot on a Saturday afternoon. Theoretically possible, but statistically somebody's going to get hurt, and it ain't going to be the combine. And speaking of combines, my uncle used to race them down by the creek, swear to God. That's how he met his third wife, Mavis, a woman who could wrangle a catfish with her bare hands and bake a pecan pie that'd make you want to slap your mama. Good times, good times. Which brings me back to Sharon and the damn government. Because you know what, maybe she always said the government was run by aliens wearing toupees. And honestly, after hearing Sharon's conspiracy theories fueled by free wine, and after all that okra and mayo, I am starting to think she might be onto something, especially considering that one time I saw a squirrel wearing a tiny hat. The world, man, it's stranger than a screen door on a submarine, ain't it?
Man, I was just thinking about my cousin Ricky. Bless his heart, used to chase squirrels with a butterfly net, thinking he could train them to deliver newspapers. Total lunatic, right? But it reminds me, I was talking to this girl the other day. Sweet thing, claimed she was 18 months clean, which is fantastic. Like finding a $20 bill and an old pair of Wranglers, but she was shaking like a chihuahua in a snowstorm. Made me wonder if maybe she was just running on pure adrenaline and the sheer will to not lick a bus stop, you know? She was holding on to this keychain, Alex's keychain, and I offered to sign it, make it better, 'cause I'm a giver. Always have been. Like a rusty old pump that still manages to squirt out a little something something when you least expect it. And then she tells me she's a recovering meth addict, which is like saying you're a recovering volcano. It's always rumbling under the surface, ain't it? I told her she had a nice smile. Probably hadn't seen it in years under all that grit and regret. And she wanted me to sign her shirt, even her boob, which, hey, who am I to judge? I'm just trying to spread a little joy like throwing glitter on a turd. You know, it's still a turd, but at least it sparkles. And then this other woman, all tripped out, yelling about Mick and her kids tripping, tells me laughing is the key, which it is, ain't it? Laughter's like WD-40 for the soul, loosens up all the rusty parts, but then some dude in the audience asks if anyone's ever been to prison around here, and it's like, hold on a damn minute, this ain't a therapy session, this is comedy unless prison's just comedy in a different outfit. I mean, all those rules and regulations, it's like a really bad improv show, and this woman says she was in for 5 years, and I swear to God, her ankle monitor started going off like a goddamn fire alarm, like the universe was saying, girl, you ain't out of the woods yet. Which just goes to show you can try to run from your past, but it'll always catch up to you, especially if it's wearing an ankle bracelet and making a whole lot of noise, just like my Uncle Dale, and that time he tried to outrun a swarm of bees in his underwear. Hilarious, but ultimately futile. Man, you know, growing up in the Sulphur, Louisiana, it was like living inside a plate of lukewarm hush puppies, real comfortable, but not a whole lot happening, except maybe Uncle Dale getting stuck in the mud with his bass boat again, which, bless his heart, that man could find a mud puddle in the Sahara. Anyways, I remember this one time, I was been about 12, I was wearing this bright orange fanny pack, looked like a damn life raft strapped to my waist, heading to a baseball card show with my buddy, let's call him Ricky Bob. Yeah, Ricky Bob.
Yeah, Ricky Bobby, he was a different breed, like a squirrel that'd been hitting the moonshine a little too hard. Always scheming, always looking for an angle. This particular day, his angle was pocketing vintage baseball cards like they were free samples at Sam's Club. And guess who he decided to use as his mule? That's right, yours truly, with my trusty orange fanny pack. He's slipping them in there. A Kirby Puckett rookie, a Dwight Gooden, all the good stuff, and I'm just standing there feeling like a damn getaway driver for a crime I didn't even know I was committing, my heart thumping like a gospel drum solo. We're making our escape, ready to meet up with my dad for a ride home, when this dude built like a brick outhouse steps in front of us, says, "Hold it right there, son."
Now, my dad, he's walking up at the same time, seeing this guy costing his precious little Theo, and his face goes from friendly to looking like a sunburned tomato in about 2 seconds. He grabs me by the shirt, lifts me up in the air like I'm a sack of potatoes, and shouts, "Is this true? Is this the son I raised?" And wouldn't you know it, right then and there, folks, I unleash a torrent of nervous pee right down my leg, all over the stolen baseball cards. It was like Niagara Falls meets Honus Wagner. The guy felt so bad for me that he just let us go. Fast forward a few years, Christmas time, we're at Sears. That place was like a damn tundra of cheap toys and stressed out parents. And I'm bugging my dad for our Arla buddies, specifically Jesse the Body Ventura. And my dad, bless his impatient heart, he rips open the packaging right there in the aisle, grabs Jesse and tries to walk out, just straight up stealing it. I stopped him, said, "Dad, you can't steal this. Remember baseball cards?" And he looks at me like I was speaking Swahili. But then that memory hit him of my piss-soaked orange fanny pack, and the look of shame on his face was like watching a hound dog realize he's treed the wrong possum. He puts the wrestling buddy back, gets the packaging, and we wait in that infernal line for another 20 minutes. But he learned his lesson, and I was the one who taught him, which in my family, that's like a damn alligator teaching a turtle how to swim. Listen, I got to tell y'all about my Aunt Brenda's Chihuahua Peanut. That thing was so mean, it bit the mailman so hard he started speaking fluent Spanish, just screaming, "Ay Dios mío," at the sky, right? And that reminds me of Delta Airlines, because dealing with them is like wrestling a rabid peanut dipped in hot sauce. I swear to God. They lure you in with the Biscoff cookie, that little rectangular biscuit of European dreams, dunk it in your coffee, pretend you're fancy like you own a yacht, but then bam, they snatch your hard-earned miles like a raccoon stealing a donut from a fat kid at summer camp. So I call him, right? Feeling like I'm fighting for my right to party. And this lady answers, sounds like she just gargled gravel in disappointment. And she says, "We don't do complaints anymore," like I'm calling the Department of Lost Socks or something. She tells me to email the complaint division, which probably consists of one guy named Earl who's been filing his taxes wrong since night. I swear she basically told me my mama wears combat boots. But the therapy trick, you know, that's how her words made me feel. So it's technically not slander. Transferred to another lady, even meaner, probably Brenda's Chihuahua reincarnated, and she's all, "Your miles are from 2010. We started keeping track in 2011. Sorry," and that's sorry with the A, and it's colder than a well digger's butt in January. So I lose it. I tell her, and I ain't proud, that I hope she dies in a fire, which in my defense is just a wish for a better world, a world slightly less Delta flavored, maybe just a mild case of treatable shingles. Nothing too crazy. And listen, guys, you know, I ain't no monster. Maybe then the insurance runs out, and that's the real poetic justice right there. All right, so listen up. I was down in Ponchatoula last weekend. Yeah. Strawberry capital of the world. Ain't nothing but sun, Jesus, and strawberries big as your fist. I saw this fella, bless his heart, trying to wrangle a gator with a pool noodle. I swear to God, pool noodle. And I thought, man, that's just like trying to get airline miles back from Delta, you know? Delta, oh Lord, Delta, they got 'em Biscoff cookies, though. That's the devil's work right there, making a cookie that good, distracting you from the fact they stealing your miles like a raccoon pilfering through your trash at 3 a.m. Sneaky bastards. They took 20,000 miles from me, gone, poof, like a fart in church. I called them up, ready to unleash the Bayou Fury. And this woman, bless her soul, probably named Brenda, with 3 cats and a permanent frown, she says, "We don't do complaints anymore." I'm like, "Excuse me, ma'am, did I accidentally dial the moon? What in the Sam Hill you talking about?" She says, "I got an email, wait 6 months, that's longer than it takes to grow a mullet down here." And she practically calls my mama something unholy, not directly, mind you, but the way she talked, I swear I felt it in my bones. Felt like mama was getting talked about behind my back at the Piggly Wiggly, and that ain't right, no sir. So I get transferred to Sarah with an I, you know, the kind that says sorry when they apologize. Like they just stepped in something nasty and you're the something. She tells me my miles are from 2010. They didn't start keeping track till 2011. Like I'm supposed to remember what I ate for breakfast that day, let alone the precise date of every damn flight. So I lost it. I ain't proud, but I told her, I said, "Sarah with an I hope you die in a fire and not kill, mind you. Just hope there's a difference. It's like hoping a mosquito gets zapped by a bug zapper. It's justice, really. Maybe a moderate case of treatable cancer, you know, enough to teach her a lesson, but not enough to like actually, you know, kill. Just enough so her insurance runs out and she learns that like there's no hope. I'm not a monster. I just hope she feels what I feel when I get on a plane and realize I gotta pay for Wi-Fi now." All right, folks, I'm from Louisiana, right? We got crawfish boils, swamp creatures, the whole shebang. Reminds me of my cousin Earl, bless his heart, used to wrestle gators down by the bayou, said it was good for his arthritis. Anyways, one thing you learn growing up down there is how to deal with critters. And online, well, you got a different kind of critter, don't you?
Yeah, no.
The trolls. Now, I ain't gonna lie, once a year or so, I like to tango with one. It's like my own personal Mardi Gras. Let the good times roll. You know, poke the bear, see what happens. I ain't looking for a full-blown feud, but a little playful banter gets the old blood pumping. Speaking of bears, remember that poor little baby got eaten by an alligator at Disney World? Tragedy, right? Comedy Central wanted me to say that. Just kidding, folks. It was awful. But 2 weeks later, I was like, all right, got to try.
So I get on stage at the Comedy Cellar and I say, I ain't no gun nut, but if that baby was packing heat, he'd still be here today. Not my best work, I admit. Front row, this lady just shakes her head, says, you can't joke about that. Oh, honey, you just fueled my jetpack. I said, did you even watch the funeral on TV? Of course they don't televise baby funerals, but maybe that's a pilot I could pitch to MTV, Baby Funeral, The Aftermath, coming this fall after Teen Mom. I said, if you did watch, you'd see the mom would come out crying and say, see you later, alligator. She stormed out. Husband stayed, probably thought it was decent. They emailed the Comedy Cellar, who then forwarded it to me with 11 exclamation points. 11. I'm framed. Here's how it started. Okay, you want blunt? I'll be blunt. Never a good sign. Apparently, a disgusting person, Sam Morril, took the stage and spent the first few minutes of his act disrespecting the 2-year-old child who was murdered by the alligator at Disney. Murder. Like, the gator got paid. Like, he called up from a payphone in a trench coat and said, she said, I have never in my life been so offended and repulsed by someone. I immediately left and stopped to tell your staff why.
Why?
My favorite part, they followed me to make sure my drinks were being paid for. Furious. And yet, those Coronas weren't free. Here's the kicker. The comic before me made like 6 Holocaust jokes. And this woman didn't bat an eye. She even glossed over them in the email. I mean, some would call her a denier, but, you know, I would expect all human beings would be offended by a sicko making jokes about a 2-year-old baby's tragic death. His mother probably said later gator at his funeral. Even in text form, that's still solid. It is the gift that keeps on giving. She's trying to get me fired over a play on words. Talk about a croc, like the one those gators are sunning on down in Orlando. Put it on all my social media. I asked everyone to share it. The comedian himself replied to me to say, pretty strong act, huh? Because if you troll me, I am trolling back, like my cousin Earl used to do with the raccoons stealing his sweet corn. I was doing a sports show and they read some tweets, Sam, your comedy is a waste. And I replied, your father's jizz was a waste. They were like, so we want you to keep doing that. Or she ends it with, what a complete and utter pathetic excuse for a human. He doesn't deserve to breathe the same air or live on the same planet as that precious little boy's family. He can go fly a kite. Fly a kite? I'd love to fly a kite. Sounds relaxing. She's very tightly wound, needs a vacation. I'm thinking Disney. But the owner, great guy, emailed her and said, we feel bad. You had a rough night. We'd like to comp you and your husband for a night out. I hope they accept and I hope they rebook me for the gig. They'd be sitting there like, finally, we can take our mind off that awful man. Your first comic. Sam the Gator Morril. Makes you wonder if that gator was just misunderstood. Maybe he just wanted a hug or a Snickers bar, you know. Maybe next time we just throw him a Snickers. That's probably what I'll do when I see her again. All right, wait. All right, Portland, Maine. Let me tell you something. I was driving up here, right? And it's beautiful, those trees. I felt like I was back in Louisiana chasing crawfish with my cousins, little barefoot heathens, except instead of crawfish, it's like lobster traps everywhere. And I thought, damn, this place is serious about its seafood. Which got me thinking, see, because you got these lobsters, right? They're living their best lives, swimming around, minding their own business. Then bam, boiling pot. Kind of like these folks down in Washington used to be a state with timber and Boeing. Now they're all about software and legal weed changed on them quick, like a lobster in hot water. That's like my cousin Billy Bob back home used to be a star football player. Now he's selling used tires and breathing through a tube after that run-in with a gator down at the lake. Life comes at you fast, folks. But these lobsters, man, these Portland lobsters, they got it rough. It ain't just the boiling pot. It's the whole town rocking lobster shirts, lobster hats, lobster bumper stickers. It's like they ain't just eating them. They're celebrating their demise, rubbing it in. That's how I felt in Los Angeles. Bunch of fancy people celebrating what's on the surface, not the real deal. But listen, here's the thing, right? Those lobsters, they're a business, a livelihood. They're keeping families afloat, just like that guy selling garage doors over there. Probably a decent man, just trying to make a living, put food on the table. Maybe he had dreams of being an astronaut or a rodeo clown, who knows? But he sling garage doors, and you know what? That's all right. Kind of like these folks in Raleigh, North Carolina. They drove all the way here for this dumb show. Like, why and who even does that? That shows you even a bad show can mean so much to somebody. That's why you got to respect the hustle, no matter how crustacean-y, like that dog out back. All right, check this out, man. Growing up in the sticks, we had this neighbor, Cletus, bless his heart, thought he could train squirrels to be ninjas. I swear to God. had little outfits and everything, tiny swords duct taped to their paws. Ridiculous, right? Anyway, Cletus, he's got this thing about control, total control, like how some folks think they got to micromanage everything, got to know every detail, got to have their hand in every pot, kind of like, I don't know, government regulations, right? See, back in the day, a man could build a shed without 10 permits and a blood sacrifice to the zoning board. Now you got to get permission to breathe. Feels like we're trading freedom for a promise of safety that's thinner than Cletus's ninja squirrel sword. It's like what happened to just using your God-given common sense instead of having some bureaucrat in Washington tell you how many ply your toilet paper should be. It's insane. You know, they say these rules are for our own good, protect the environment, make things fair, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes it feels like they're just making it harder for regular folks to get by, all these hoops to jump through. It's like trying to herd those damn ninja squirrels, pointless, frustrating, and you're going to get bit eventually. Then folks are complaining about the cost of living. The small business owners can't grow. They're too busy filling out forms. Next thing you know, Cletus's squirrel army is running the whole damn country because nobody else can figure out how to get a building permit to open a bait shop. Then you end up like that other guy, the guy from the news with all the guns.
All right, so I was down in Tickfaw, Louisiana, you know, population smaller than the number of squirrels in my attic. And my cousin, bless her heart, she's trying to be all fancy, right? She's got one of them Dale Earnhardt Sr. tribute things hanging on her wall, you know, the Intimidator, gone too soon, rest his soul and all that jazz. But it got me thinking about legends, real legends, the kind of folks you find out about way after the party's over, like, say, Jeffrey Epstein. And no, I ain't saying they're the same kind of legend. One's racing and one's, let's just say he knew how to drive a different kind of crowd, you feel me? Anyways, here I am at Comic-Con, which is like if Walmart and Halloween had a baby raised by anime and comic books, and I'm walking around seeing folks dressed up as everything from Moanin' Myrtle, who sounds like the name of a backwoods stripper, by the way, to Naruto, which I thought was a new kind of sushi. Lord forgive me, and I'm asking these folks, like, is this something you do at home too, or is this strictly for show? And they're looking at me like I'm speaking Klingon, but then there's this woman dressed as the evil queen, but the new and improved evil queen, if you catch my drift. And she's rocking the kind of cleavage that could make a preacher forget the 10 Commandments. And I'm thinking, damn, Disney's really stepped up their game. And then I run into this comic book guy making comics where the characters get superpowers from tattoos. And I'm like, man, if that was real, the women in Tampa would be saving the world every Tuesday. Because let me tell you, as Florida girls are something special. They got a kind of superpower all their own, you know. It's like a mixture of sunshine, tequila, and absolutely no fear. And then there's this whole thing about how these folks are dressing up for their boyfriend's birthday. And one guy's Batman request involves his parents being dead. And I'm thinking, damn, these kids are darker than my coffee. And somebody's telling me lots of tits but no touching, which is basically my life story right there. And somebody else says, cosplay is not consent, which sounds like something Bill Cosby would say right before offering you a pudding pop. Am I right? Then I meet this fella dressed as Wanua from Bionicle, and he's complaining nobody knows who he is. And I'm standing there, nodding along, pretending I know what a Bionicle is, when in reality I was probably still playing with rocks and mud when those things were popular. And I'm seeing art, I'm seeing comics, I'm seeing this dude with Sonic the Hedgehog saying he's faster than the speed of sound, and I'm asking him if that speed translates to the bedroom, and he says he's got a rush because Dr. Eggman is always messing things up. And I'm thinking, man, Eggman's got the same excuse I use with my girlfriend. Then I meet this other dude dressed as Riola from Night's Journey into Dreams, which again, I have no clue what that is, but he agrees that Sonic is fast, real fast, like running away from child support fast. And then I run into Hulk Hogan, who claims he's a changed man, a redemption Hulk Hogan, and I'm waiting for him to drop the N-word, but he doesn't, which is progress, I guess. And finally, some lady tells me I should have dressed up, and I ask her who I should be, and she says Batman, but Jewish Batman with his parents alive and his mom overprotective. And I'm thinking, damn, that's pretty much my life already, except I ain't got the cape. Just the constant phone calls from mama.
All right. What's up, freaks and geeks? So, listen, I'm not a parade guy. Nope. Give me a good old back road any day. But my buddy Cletus, he's like, Theo, gotta experience the Halloween parade in the city. It's gonna be epic. Now, Cletus ain't been right since that squirrel incident, but I figured, all right, let's give it a whirl. Worst case scenario, I see more clowns than at a Shriners convention, you know. And right off the bat, it's chaos, like a badger in a washing machine. There was this kid dressed as the Tin Man, right? Except the dad leans over and goes, yeah, he ain't got no heart, just like his mother. Now that's dark, even for Halloween. And then get this, another fella's dressed as P. Diddy, or Puff Daddy, or whatever he's calling himself this week, looking like he just stepped out of a 8-8 of Crisco. Dude's hammered, starts slurring at me about bourbon and being a drunk douchebag. That mean pot me kettle, brother. But it got me thinking, all this costumery, all this performance. It's like we're all just wearing masks trying to be someone we ain't. Kind of like politicians, you know? Saying one thing, doing another. It's a dang circus. And then this girl dressed as Kill Bill, dead serious, tells me, if I could kill anyone in the world, it'd be you.
What in the tarnation? I just met her.
Philadelphia Halloween, at least in the big city, is basically a giant open-air freak show. It reminds me a little bit of the internet. Folks spewing whatever comes to mind with no filter. I swear there was more baby oil at that parade than in a John Travolta movie. But there was this one guy dressed as JoJo, fully committed. I'm talking aviator shades, the whole shebang, and for a second I almost believed it. Almost. But then some fellow whispered that Nick Cannon got jumped somewhere in the parade, and it got me thinking, is it getting dicey out here, boys and girls? Between the baby oil and the potential Cannon attack, you never know what's going to come at you. And what's the deal with these celebrities having 1,000 kids? I mean, Elon Musk and Nick Cannon are starting to look like a rabbit farm run amok. But then there's this angel or something. She's saying, I'm a sexy dark angel. I got my hairy chest, and she loves it. I love to see that. So listen, I ain't gonna lie. This whole shebang was a mess. I saw more costumes than I've seen squirrels in my backyard this year. But you know what? Even with all the chaos, the baby oil, the potential for Cannon-related violence, there was something kind of beautiful about it. It's like we're all just a bunch of weirdos putting on a show, trying to find our people. And maybe, just maybe, under all the masks and the costumes, there's a little bit of truth. And if you're a bad kitty, then get the hell out.
But
As for me, I'm heading back to the sticks, where the only thing jumping you is a deer looking for a midnight snack. All right. Settle down, folks. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate you. Y'all look beautiful, especially you, sir, rocking that denim on denim, feeling like a Canadian tuxedo night. I like it. Keeps things classy. So let me tell you something. I was driving down to Louisiana last week, right? Visited my grandma, bless her heart. Still makes the best gumbo this side of the Mississippi, but Lord have mercy, that woman's got a collection of porcelain dolls that would make Stephen King sweat. Each one looking like they're scheming to steal your soul, like they plotting a revolution in the China cabinet. Real spooky stuff. Anyway, I'm cruising down I-55, windows down, listening to some Lynyrd Skynyrd, feeling like a true Southern gentleman, when I see this hitchhiker, right? Dude's got a beard that could house a family of squirrels, wearing a tie-dye shirt that probably saw better days at Woodstock, and holding a sign that says Nashville or bust, looking like a human tumbleweed rolling through life. Figured why not give the fellow a lift. Turns out his name's Earl, and Earl's got opinions, let me tell you. Opinions on everything. Politics, Bigfoot, the proper way to grow a catfish, the Illuminati site plan to replace all politicians with robot duplicates. The man was a human conspiracy theory, talking faster than an auctioneer selling prize pigs. And then he hits me with it. He says, Theo, boy, you know they're trying to control us all, right? Control our minds, control our bodies, control what we think. They're taking away our freedoms one by one. Yo. I said, Earl, I'm just trying to get to my grandma's for some gumbo. But all right. It reminded me of this girl in L.A. She was all about control, like having a Fitbit for your soul, keeping track of your karma points or something. And that's when it hit me, this whole thing about control. See, we all got to control our lives in some way, right? And try to reach our dreams. Some folks think they are better than others, but everyone is just trying their best. It's like that time I tried to learn how to play the banjo. Thought I was going to be the next Earl Scruggs. Turns out I sounded more like a cat getting strangled. It's the same with people judging others. Everyone thinks they are better when they're just trying to have control of some kind of life. The government tries to control by making sure people pay taxes. But I hate paying taxes. It's like buying a car and then having to pay extra just to drive it. Corporations try to control us with ads telling us what to buy. But sometimes I just buy the off-brand anyway because who cares? Girlfriends try to control you like with that headache thing, but you'll always want to get them Sonic ice cream later on anyway. Moms try to control the children when they are grown. But the children are grown now, just like I'm trying to control to keep my bogs off the bed when I am not home. But it always turns out with one on the bed and the security camera like you see it that you are going to get them but you can't. It's a slippery slope into trying to control everything. From that one rogue sock that disappears in the dryer, to the urge to rearrange your grandma's porcelain doll collection in order of spookiness. It ain't about having all the answers. It's realizing that the only real control you got is over yourself. Your reactions, your choices. Now, some people might call that wisdom. I just call it surviving another family gathering. Now, where's my gummy bear? Let's keep it rolling.
All right, so I was down in Tickfall, Louisiana, right? That's where I grew up. Place so small, the mosquitoes wear cowboy boots. And my cousin, bless his heart, had this pet raccoon, named him President, because he said it was always rooting around in the trash, you know, like a politician. And anyway, President, the raccoon, he loved sweet tea. Just loved it. And my cousin, he'd poured in a little dish for him every day. And one day, President, he laps it up and just keels over dead as a doornail. And we're all standing there staring at this dead raccoon, sweet tea spilled everywhere. And my cousin says, well, I guess he just reached his sugar quota, which, I mean, that's kind of how I feel sometimes, you know, like I'm just one more drink away from finding out what my personal sugar quota is. Speaking of drinks, I saw this dude get tossed from a bar once, looked like a scarecrow, got into a fight with a lawnmower, and the bouncer, big old fella, shaped like a fridge with legs, he just picks him up like a sack of potatoes and throws him out the door, and the guy lands in a pile of leaves, starts yelling about his rights, his freedom, and I thought, man, that's kind of like what we're doing with social media, right? We're throwing all this information out there, landing in this digital pile of leaves, yelling about our rights, but nobody's really listening, you know? And it's like used to be if you wanted to know what was going on in the world, you had Walter Cronkite. Now you got a million opinions coming at you from every angle, like trying to herd cats in a hurricane, which brings me to this whole cancel culture thing where people are getting fired for saying things, you know, maybe they shouldn't have said, but it's like we're all just trying to figure things out, ain't we? We're all just a bunch of Tickfall raccoons rooting around in the trash, trying to find some sweet tea, and sometimes we drink too much, say something stupid, and end up dead in a pile of leaves. But you know what? At least we tried, at least we lived, and at least we knew what it felt like to have a little sweet tea in our bellies, even if it killed us. Which kind of makes you wonder, what's your sweet tea, y'all? What's that thing that you love so much, you're willing to risk it all for? Because I'll tell you what, mine's probably this microphone and y'all, and that might sound crazy, but hey, I'm a Tickfall raccoon, what do I know? Now, who here has ever accidentally sent a text to the wrong person?
All right. Settle down, y'all. Let me tell you something. Grew up in Louisiana, right? Small town population, smaller than the number of teeth my Uncle Earl lost. Chaw and tobacco, but we had this one dog, Chester. Now, Chester was dumber than a box of rocks, bless his heart, but loyal. Like a rusted out pickup truck that still gets you to church on Sunday. But Chester, he only liked one person, old man Fitzwilliam, who lived down the road and smelled permanently of mothballs and regret. Nobody knew why Fitzwilliam hated everybody except Chester and me. I'm like, dog, you got options. But Chester, he just wagged his tail at Fitzwilliam's every word, and that reminds me of Bridgeport, Connecticut. Yeah, Bridgeport. I did a gig there once, got chased off stage, I ain't kidding. Chased like a chicken by a pack of hungry coonhounds. These guys from New York, they scouted me out, promised me $1,000, which back then felt like a king's ransom. I'm green as a gourd, right? They saw me kill it at Eastville Comedy Club, lightning in a bottle. They said, if you're this good here, Bridgeport will love ya. Like that makes sense. Like saying if you can charm a rattlesnake, you can charm a pit viper. Anyway, they introduced me to the Muscle. I swear to God, they kept calling him that. The Muscle, this dude looked like a refrigerator with arms. Drinking with these guys. Muscle's telling me about his 2.5 years in the clink for slinging coke like it's a damn weather report, just casually drops that in the conversation. I'm thinking, is this a setup? So I get on stage at the Bijou Theater. Beautiful place showing Casablanca. They play in the classics, and there's this one guy, front row, louder than a frog in a tin bucket. heckling me like I owed him money, so I'm roasting him clever as I can. I'm pulling out all the stops, every witty barb I got. Nothing works. He just keeps coming. Finally, I snap. I call him a Neanderthal dumb fuck, and he stands up. Turns out this Neanderthal's 6'6" and built like a brick shithouse. I'm thinking, oh Lord, here comes the reckoning. He charges the stage. Nobody stops him. I bolt. I'm in the back. People are booing. I lock myself in the green room. This woman runs in, says I can't do that, says it's unprofessional, like getting my teeth rearranged is professional. So I tell her to shove it. Tell Bridgeport to shove it. They hear everything, of course, cordless. I sound like the biggest coward this side of the Mississippi. 8 minutes of pure unadulterated hatred. The dude finally leaves. I go back out, finish the set to complete in utter silence, like performing for a room full of mannequins. Connecticut. It's like a highway between New York and Boston with a few insurance buildings sprinkled in and no hope, just rich people pretending they ain't living next to a swamp. Even Chappelle bombed there. I'm telling you, I ain't been back in 15 years. Wouldn't go back if they paid me in solid gold toilets. Bridgeport, man, it's like that box of rocks. Something just ain't right. Like old man Fitzwilliam in that dog Chester, some things you just can't explain. You know, like why they still make grape-flavored cough syrup, but hey, that's just me. Probably because I'm from the South. All right, settle down. You look like a bunch of squirrels fighting over a single acorn. Actually, that's pretty accurate for Boston, isn't it? Speaking of acorns, reminds me of my Uncle Dale, bless his heart, always wore a hat made of them. Said it kept the government satellites from reading his thoughts. Government satellites? Dale thought they were run by squirrels, naturally. Anyway, one time Dale's convinced that the squirrels are sending him messages through the TV, so he tries to renegotiate the cable package with them using peanut butter, a real classy negotiation tactic but this fella right here, he mentioned being locked up, which, let me tell you, is a whole different level of squirrel crazy than Uncle Dale. Said it was after a Nick Swardson show. Nick Swardson! Love that dude. But getting arrested after his show is like getting a flat tire leaving a monster truck rally. You kind of saw it coming, you know? You said it was an assault case. Assault! With that haircut, I'm betting it was a hate crime, probably involving someone's poorly executed tribal tattoo. Girlfriend's brother was gay, and he thought he was making fun of him, so he threw the first punch. Now, in my book, if someone throws the first punch, they're basically handing you a permission slip to introduce their face to your knuckles, courtesy of Chuck E. Cheese's birthday party. Luckily, this guy delivered the punch, real stand-up dude. The beauty of it all? He started reading in jail, probably trying to understand why he keeps making such poor life choices. This brings to mind this article I saw in the Boston Globe about a rise in white hate rhetoric. There was this picture of a bunch of dudes in Boston holding a sign that said, "Keep Boston Irish." And my first thought was, man, I hope that happens, because the Celtics are going to be even worse if they're all Irish guys named Murphy. Murphy to Flanagan, air ball. Some white guy in the rafters is going to be screaming. The Celtics are 0-58, but they've never looked better to me because I have the same complexion. They're playing the right way, though. Now, he works with special education kids. That's good, real good. Can't make fun of that. That's like making fun of a puppy wearing a tiny hat. He got a girlfriend, too, a rare woman who drinks whiskey straight. That's a woman with some chest hair right there. Speaking of whiskey, reminds me of this one time. I drank so much whiskey and ended up arguing with a mannequin in a department store window. Convinced she was judging my outfit. Look, Brenda, I said, this Hawaiian shirt is making a statement. The statement was, I'd lost control of my life. This other dude's drinking Tanqueray. That's a sophisticated gin. Don't see many folks throwing back. Tanqueray with a vengeance, probably because you'd never see that ad, whip out them titties, Tanqueray. Some mushroom cocktail thing the other person has got there. You know, some guy is on a slippery slope when he's drinking dinner. Tell me you have a problem without telling me you have a problem. That's like seeing a squirrel wearing a tiny tuxedo and holding a martini glass. You know, he's headed for trouble. Another person over there is from the Cape. Of course, the Cape is known for its relaxed social norms. This couple met on Facebook, dating. Did he poke you? What's his job, though? Anal. You know, he had to... Someone just yelled anal. Real classy, that. The girls over there are twins.
We're in the Twilight Zone.
Twins on OnlyFans. Well, if his relationship got serious, he could always pull the switcheroo. Ruins on OnlyFans. What happened to working at a Dairy Queen or something? You'd think at least one of those OnlyFans would have a real job. Digital marketing, that sounds important. She's got a regular cock. What does that even mean? They also teach elementary school, and you ask him about it. Spring break? Now that sounds like good Theo Von-esque weirdness. He's been driving them everywhere because they see him and decide that he's Dale Earnhardt or something. Speaking of driving, I once tried to drive a golf cart through a Walmart parking lot, thinking it was a shortcut. Ended up with a security guard chasing me while I yelled, "I'm just trying to pickle aisle." He works in tech with the government, just like everyone else. That's like saying, "I'm from Earth." It narrows it down, but not by much. The girl made pasta instead of hooking up. Pasta or carbs? Sam came on the show earlier and they said that there might be some legal lessons. They asked ChatGPT whether the United States is racist. I think it's the best answer when a government AI is on the fence about whether the country is racist. You wish you were with those girls too. They said the trans shooter had to be scary for police. Then they asked ChatGPT to identify her. Are you with the dude? This chick is horny on a Monday. He's a good-looking dude. This chick is horny on a Monday. He's a good-looking dude. He's covered in tats too. He's kind of shredded. Oh my God. Did two people just meet up in my front row? One dude is a plumber. I think you're going to lay some pipe tonight. I do not dislike big tits. Double D. So aggressive.
What do you do for work?
You work in Orlando. It's always slutty Minnie Mouse. They always have weird head. This dude comes up on stage and says to blur the face and keep the tits. His friend owns the bar. Then they said this could be a sticky situation right here. Come out for a drink. I'll promote you to head bartender. They even hook up or anything. We're done. He said the Me Too shit is over. His girl's on the other side. Are they the Rolling Stones? What the hell are they doing? He's a grim motherfucker to... You guys are some grimy motherfuckers here, I know. I'm not like I'm not. Well, guess what, dude? I'm rubbering your glue. So whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to her leg because she's seen some action. Would you rather get with 8 dudes? You could buy a house with that tiny white dick. The guy teaches AP literature, which brings to mind this time he tried to write a poem about a squirrel, but it ended up sounding like a grocery list. Acorns, nuts, small mammal, vaguely unsettling gaze, a Tinder adventure, confessions of a whore. This girl is so casual when dude busted inside of her, but it's going to be in the book. What grade are they? Seniors in HS. That dude works in real estate. I mean, you're here, but I think this is it for you. I think this is as close as it gets. These are the types of hecklers that would never just take an L. Then they said he was in Hamilton and said he's gonna, what a night, you guys. All right, I'm gonna get my avocado and get out of here. Man, let me tell you something. Growing up back in Louisiana, we had this one-eyed dog named Lucky. Because, well, he only had one eye, real original, right? That dog, he was dumber than a bag of hammers, I swear. But he had this howl. He sounded like a coyote gargling on gravel, just awful. Now, New York, see, it's a whole nother level of awful, beautiful, you know. Like I was leaving a buddy's place at 6 in the morning, hammered out of my gourd, hailed a cab, stumbling like a newborn calf. And this cabbie, he just looks at me, no luggage, nothing, and goes, LaGuardia, like I'm some kind of high-class problem heading for a boarding school reunion. And I, drunk as I was, just went, yeah, sounds good. Woke up halfway there thinking, hold on, JFK's got that Shake Shack. Let's reroute this gravy train. And that's New York, man. Transportation's a comedy show, especially that subway. The other day, I swear, saw this homeless dude, voice of an angel, singing his heart out. People throwing money at him like he was Pavarotti with a cardboard sign. Then bam, another homeless cat shows up, same deal. But nobody's giving him nothing because the first guy just blew the roof off the place with talent. You feel bad, like, look, pal, you gotta have a hook. This is America's Got Talent Homeless Edition. You're just standing there looking destitute. What's your act? Reminds me of when I was on that show, America's Got Talent, dressed like a homeless Harry Potter reject and lost to a mime. This dude, Tapeface, he was incredible, don't get me wrong, but I'm still on the TV show America's Got Talent and I'm losing to a mime in Scary Spice. Mel B, she kept saying I was cute, like I had a shot, but look at me. I'm wearing a hoodie with one string. I look like I sell Lucy's behind the library and she's probably thinking, oh, bless his heart, he thinks this is a date. But that's stand-up, ain't it? Started when I was 18, too dumb to know it was hard. First joke that landed was about my English teacher saying I was like a young Hemingway, an alcoholic who's gonna kill himself, she said. Now look at me, got my own whiskey line, and I got a tour called the Eras Tour. Genius. I'm expecting some dudes showing up thinking they're taking their girlfriends to Taylor Swift and end up with yours truly. No refunds, baby, just a whole lot of awkward laughter, and maybe, just maybe, they'll learn to love the guy who got beat by a mime. All right, folks. All right, settle down. You look great, even you in the back with the, is that a raccoon hat? Good for you. Express yourself. Reminds me of my Unc Earl, bless his heart, always wore a coonskin cap, swore it kept the government off his scent. Now, Earl, he was a character, tried to pay for groceries with squirrels, said they were legal tender in the Squirrel Republic. The cashier, bless her heart, just stared at him and said, Earl, you know, the Squirrel Republic ain't recognized by the FDIC, right? But Uncle Earl, he wasn't deterred. He just winked, said, honey, you just ain't woke to the squirrel agenda yet. Now, where was I? Squirrels, Uncle Earl? Right. Oh, yeah, responsibility. That's what Uncle Earl was avoiding, just like folks avoiding uncomfortable truths these days. It's like we all got this internal GPS telling us what's right, but we keep hitting recalculating till it leads us to the nearest Chick-fil-A and a whole lot of denial. Speaking of denial, relationships, man, they're wild. Got a text from my ex the other day out of the blue, just, hey, like we still sharing Netflix passwords or something. I ignored it naturally, but then bam, another text. Hope you're doing well. Like she's Mother Teresa checking in on a leper colony. I almost replied, yeah, great. Just finished wrestling a bear, baked a cake, and solved world hunger all before lunch, but I restrained myself. Gotta keep that mystery, you know. But it got me thinking about all these signals we sending and receiving, all this communication, but how much of it's just noise, like that dial-up Unum sound. Remember that? Screeching and hissing, promising connection, but mostly just giving you a headache and a hefty phone bill. And these days, it's even worse. We got dating apps, social media, endless news cycles, everyone yelling their opinions into the void, but nobody really hearing anything. It's like we're all lost in a corn maze, bumping into each other, yelling for directions, but the only sound that echoes back is our own dang voice. Responsibility in relationships is like trying to herd cats with a spatula, right? Folks always looking for the easy way out, the quick fix, the app that'll magically solve all their problems. But real connection, real accountability, that takes work, takes showing up, even when you'd rather be hiding under the covers with a bag of Cheetos and a marathon of Ancient Aliens. It's like trying to build a house out of toothpicks. Every piece got to be just right. Every connection got to be solid or the whole dang thing collapses. So how we fix this? How we get back to real responsibility, real connection? Well, I ain't got all the answers, folks. I'm just a comedian with a raccoon hat story and a hankering for some squirrel jerky. But I think it starts with just showing up, listen to the signal, take action, make a change, and hope for the best outcome. What if we all just took a little responsibility for our own little corners of the world? Maybe, just maybe, we could build something beautiful, something real and enduring, or at least something that won't collapse the first time a squirrel sneezes on it. Man, it's like back in Slaughter, Louisiana, when my cousin Ricky got catfished by this lady named Brenda on AOL, thought she was a total smoke show till he showed up at the Cracker Barrel and Brenda rolled out looking like a linebacker in a denim skirt. He was hotter than a hound dog in July, just fuming, talking about the betrayal, the lies. Felt like someone stole his brand new Bass Pro Shops fishing rod. Now, this reminds me of this story I heard, and I missed half of it because I was running my mouth over there, but apparently some dude got robbed on account of, shall we say, a certain lack of endowment, you know, the old short stack situation, not exactly packing heat. So this fella gets bamboozled, feels like he got sold a bill of goods because he was expecting, you know, something closer to a kielbasa, and he ended up with a cocktail weenie, real bait and switch situation, and he was hot, just red in the face like a baboon's butt on a hot stove. And now you over there asking what happened. You're like that dang fool who shows up halfway through Gone with the Wind and wants a play-by-play. It's like, dog, you missed the movie. But it also reminds me of this girl I knew, name's almost like the N-word, only she was Persian. You remember Nagareni, GGAR, and her name sounds bad, but she could make a mean gumbo. So now that makes me think of that time. Me and my buddy Will, we are always getting into trouble, but maybe we should be undercover cops solving mysteries. I will be the dude who sees everything and you're the guy, but walks away and says, wait, what happened? And I got to sit you down and explain to you the case, man. That could be a movie for real. All right. So I was down at the Piggly Wiggly the other day, right? Just grabbing some mayonnaise. Duke's, gotta be Duke's. That other stuff is like Cool Whip. And nobody needs that kind of negativity in their life. And I see Miss Mildred, the one who always wears that floral dress that looks like it was attacked by a flock of pigeons. And she's got her cart sideways blocking the whole damn aisle. So I say, Miss Mildred, you planning on moving to Canada with all that real estate you're taking up? And she gives me that look, the one that says, I've seen things, Theo, things that would curdle your sweet tea. And she just mumbles something about the fairer sex and shuffles off. Now that got me thinking about that study, you know, the one about how women are better drivers than us fellas. I mean, faster reaction times, better control, less of them crazy gas guzzling maneuvers, it's all there. And it reminds me of this one time I saw a squirrel trying to parallel park a walnut. It was a disaster, just total chaos. But, you know,
It's like reading Moby Dick aloud. Nobody needs to hear that. It's too long. Public speaking. That is my whale. I get nervous, like a Chihuahua hurricane. So I figured I'd face it head on, like tackling a grizzly bear with a pool noodle.
But hey, I'm just a victim, just a little bitch, curling up in a ball with a crest, whitening strip, trying to get myself a good date with this clean asshole from Brazil over here, who makes me think of DMX after too much Indian food. You know, Celine Dion goes in and DMX comes out. Maybe I'll even get my butthole bleached for her if she plays her cards right. I mean, it's as romantic as it gets. Because I tell you what, some of these asses look like coffee filters that been used for a decade, and you got to use a laser or something to get them clean.
I mean, I love Mongolia and metal bleaching, but the monkeypox out there freaks me out. You know what sucks? Sucking dicks in general. You want a girl from England with a squeaky clean asshole with no history of cocaine or heroin use? I've never smoked in foil or done a cookie, but I do remember jacking off with all my friends back when I was 13, not because we are some crazy cookie munching sussies, but because we were super lonely. Mormons just trying to find our true Frappuccino, which is a lot like Scott, kind of gross until you are old enough to enjoy it. All right, Boston, we have some rowdy readers. Ain't that a kick in the teeth? It reminds me of my cousin Earl. Bless his heart. Always reading Louis L'Amour while simultaneously trying to hotwire a tractor. A real Renaissance man, that Earl. Speaking of being locked up, this fella here was just telling me about his stint in the clink. Said it was after a Nick Swartzen show. Now Nick, that boy's got a mind like a squirrel on meth. Pure chaos. Turns out this fella, probably fueled by Beantown brews, got into a kerfuffle on the train because some fella was quoting Terry from Reno 911, one of Nick's characters, see? And this fella thought he was being mocked. Now, I'm no Sherlock Holmes, but I'm guessing there was a misunderstanding, maybe a little too much Sam Adams involved. And bam, assault case. My grandma used to say, never trust a man who quotes Reno 911. Out of context, wise woman, that one. Anyhow, this poor fella ended up needing facial reconstruction, which I gotta say is a bit extreme for quoting a TV show, unless maybe he was doing a spot-on impersonation of Rainisha, then all bets are off. But here's the kicker, the grand finale, the cherry on top of this whole Boston cream pie, the victim, after getting his face rearranged, started reading. Can you believe it? Goes to show you, folks, sometimes the best way to learn empathy is to have your nose broken. This fella here, a reformed convict, just wants everyone to know he didn't want to bust up anyone's face, but then admits he's going to go home and dive headfirst into Michael Connolly. So maybe the real crime here is the cyclical nature of violence and the enduring power of a good detective novel. Or maybe it's just that Bostonians are wild, I don't know. I'm just a simple country comedian trying to make sense of a world where facial reconstruction leads to literary enlightenment. Now, if you'll excuse me, I think I'll go read some Shel Silverstein and try not to assault anyone. Man, this town's all right. Reminds me of Maudley, Kentucky, where I grew up. You know, we went from shining the good stuff to, well, let's just say the bats in the belfry are flying a little closer to the ground these days, but nothing like you city folks from New York. Y'all got juice. We got sweet tea and suspicion. It's a whole different ball game, right? So I was watching this thing on TV, and they were talking to some comedian, and they said, hey, what can folks expect from your shows? And he just blurts out a lot of jokes about Jews. And I just about choked on my RC Cola because last time I was doing a gig, I said something about it being Jewish, and this woman lets out this, like I just told her I kissed a possum, and I'm thinking, lady, you going to make me call security, or are we going to have a civilized conversation about gefilte fish? But you know what's even crazier? I actually ended up hanging out with her later. It's like trying to pet a rabid raccoon. You know, it's going to end bad, but you can't help yourself. And afterward, I'm feeling like I need to take a bath in holy water, like I just wrestled a greased pig in a septic tank, and I'm thinking this is my life. All right, folks, let me tell you something. I was down at the Piggly Wiggly the other day. Yeah, the pig, still kicking in Slaughter, Louisiana, bless his heart. And this fella, Earl, right? Earl's got one tooth. Wears a t-shirt that says I'm with stupid with an arrow pointing straight up. And he's arguing with the cashier about whether a tomato is a fruit or a vegetable. Says he learned it from a YouTube video titled Tomatoes, Satan's Veggie Deception. I swear to God, only in Slaughter. But it got me thinking, you know, about opinions, about truth, about what people believe. Like, remember when Trump, bless his comb over, announced we lost the ISIS leader? He comes out like he just won the Super Bowl.
We killed him like a dog. He says, and I'm sitting there thinking, dang, that's cold, even for a fella who dips his fries in ice cream. But then it got me thinking about something else. Tom Cruise, right? Now, Ari Shafir, that crazy cat, he's always defending Cruise like he's protecting his mama. And me, I'm a Hanks kind of guy. Hanks, he's like mashed potatoes, always reliable, always comforts you. Cruise is like a Red Bull and vodka, gets you going and might leave you feeling kind of jittery. And don't even get me started on DiCaprio. That fella just oozes talent like a crowfish boil, ooze butter, spicy and delicious. And Christian Bale, that dude's a chameleon. Changes more than the weather in Tennessee. But then somebody brings up Daniel Day-Lewis, right? Method actor extraordinaire, disappears into his roles like a gnat into a Louisiana swamp. But could you imagine Tom Cruise playing Lincoln?
I'd be like,
Putting ketchup on a fine steak, just plain raw. You got to hand it to Tom, though. He's got that American dominance thing down. Top Gun, Days of Thunder. It's like the cinematic equivalent of a bald eagle wearing a stars and stripes bandana. Jerry Maguire, that's a classic. And The Last Samurai, underrated, I tell you. But honestly, I could do without Jack Nicholson if I had to. I know. Crazy talk. It's like saying you don't like sweet tea. But Christian Bale's Batman, that's something special. Top Gun Maverick, though, that was a good time. Cheesy as a Wisconsin dairy farm at a good time. I was sitting there looking at them planes thinking, dang, those are some cool planes, but they didn't even show the bad guy. That's capitalism, folks. Gotta keep it vague so we don't offend nobody. The whole argument comes down to Mel Gibson versus Tom Cruise.
Today.
I have to say, both of them spoke freely. And then someone says Denzel Washington's their number one, and I gotta agree. Denzel is Pacino in my book. Yeah, Pacino, the guy who played the same role every single time, kind of like my Uncle Billy at every family barbecue. Equalizer, he says. More like Equalizer. Denzel's the only guy who can say gibberish and make it sound like Shakespeare. Like that time I tried to order a grande macchiato at Starbucks. Book of Eli, that's a movie. John Q, dude's a legend. I like Leo and Django. I like Christoph Waltz better than Tom Cruise. Waltz is a monster. It all started with Denzel was better than Tom Cruise. Now we're here. It comes down to resume. Catch Me If You Can, The Wolf of Wall Street, better than Logie. Range of movie that Leo takes is crazy. Denzel, I guess, had no black people in his. Who are you taking, Cruise or De Niro? But with all due respect to De Niro, no. Why? Because he does the same character in everybody. It's just, I watched Deer Hunter the other night, and you know what sucks about Deer Hunter? It's supposed to be in Western PA, but all of a sudden, for no reason, when they go deer hunting, they're in the Rocky Mountains. It's just all steel factories in Pittsburgh. The Rockies aren't there. They have mountains right there an hour south of Pittsburgh. I know, but not snow-capped. You know there's some snow-capped mountain. Yes, there is. Oh, my blood, baby. Speaking of stories about mountains, how about that trauma my friend had? He got sucked into a brothel. 5,000 pounds. The woman pegged him. And what about this sour beer? They brought him cocaine. They're playing 1-minute songs. Everything in Europe sucks. They're just throwing everything every way. Here comes the Pizza Hut to the KFC. He had to ride somewhere to get to him. She was a washroom with the toothbrushes. He was like, that's actually slavery. Here comes the no-clothes Coke around. Didn't even finish the damn time. Here they kicked him out. But the best was coming back. It was high-end. Those are Russian slaves. They just started throwing their hair. You think I'd have a heart attack? My head just blew a tire so bad. Woke up in time for soccer with tiny chairs. And the Germans got fired. He just came out and was like, yeah, that happened. But it got me thinking back at the Piggly Wiggly with Earl about them tomatoes, about how Earl's going to believe what he wants to believe, no matter what the cashier or science or common sense tells him. And you know what? Maybe that's all right. Maybe the beauty of this crazy world is that we can all be a little bit like Earl, arguing about tomatoes and believing in something nobody else does. Just don't come around here talking bad about Hanks.